Gothic architecture. Due to its distinct features, this church at the square can be categorized as an example of Gothic architecture. The large marble spire on this architecture is a very significant element along with the spire. The cross that stands on the peak of it proves that this building has been influenced by religion. Although the church has circular windows rather than arched, many of its traits are equivalent with that of the Gothic architecture. Neoclassical. An example of neoclassical architecture is the courthouse building at Marietta Square. It is distinguishable by its rectangular stature as well as rectangular windows. Our culture has influenced more architecture to have modern features, such as this courthouse building, by replacing religion influence with more geometrical characteristics. Victorian architecture. This church is a form of Victorian architecture. It shares many similarities with Gothic architecture, including the height, windows, and religious affiliation. But what identifies this as Victorian is the stairs leading up to it, and many parts are made of stone. This church is a Baptist church, which is the denomination of Christianity. Culture is present here through the detail incorporated in the building's architecture, which represents how much religion is valued in this area. Architectural preservation. The Strand is a very accurate representation of architectural preservation. The Strand has been renovated in order to give it a modern twist, which is evident with the Strand sign that displays events and showtimes. However, some of the original architecture has been preserved because it is recognizable to the public. Therefore, the Strand fits this architectural style because it has original, traditional components as well as new, modern ones. Neoclassical. This example of urban architecture displays neoclassical characteristics. The substantial amount of square windows exhibited on the building is one reason it is classified as neoclassical. Neoclassical architecture has no religious affiliation and presents more of a modern style. These attributes are visible in this building that is located on the square. Louisiana French. This insurance building is a style of Louisiana French architecture. This building has a second-story porch with white fencing surrounding it, and the windows are outlined with green and red. The reason the whole building isn't colorful is so it matches the appearance of the surrounding businesses while still maintaining a bit of color. This building is located a bit off the center of the square because it is a house that was previously used for residential purposes, but now has been repurposed to serve as insurance offices, so it is an aspect of urban architecture. Architectural preservation. This building is an example of architectural preservation. It has many aspects of the original architecture, including the stained glass window. The lettering and the interior have been renovated and improved to match modern times. Architectural preservation is a way to adopt pop culture while still maintaining some aspects of previous local culture. Gothic architecture. Located adjacent to the square is this church that fits the features of Gothic architecture. A major component of Gothic architecture is arched windows, which are identifiable on this church. Clearly, this building has religious influences, as portrayed by the cross displayed high above the church. That indicated that it is a place of the Father for Christianity religion. Louisiana French. This residential-inspired building is a Louisiana French style of architecture. The porch on the second level as well as the white pickets are a few of the many things that make this building a Louisiana French. Structures with residential influence can be seen more often within our society, influencing our culture. Neoclassical. This building classifies as neoclassical. Its walls are very boxy with sharp corners, as are the windows. While the windows do have a semicircle addition on top, the main portion are the typical rectangles. Also, the building has no religious affiliation because it is used for residential purposes. This building helps influence our cultural landscape by providing an unconventional form of neoclassical architecture, which in turn helps diversify the appearance of Marietta Square even more. Greek Revival. The building labeled First National Bank is an example of Greek Revival. The building is made of marble and displays the title on the facade. It did serve importance, but is currently under construction. The First National Bank has arrived along the diffusion from its hearth in Philadelphia. It appears root here because it is an urban area, and these banks thrive in city settings. Greek Revival. The Cobb Museum of Art is a perfect example of Greek Revival architecture. The building has columns, symmetry, made of marble and stone, and is important with the title displayed on the front. This building is important because it contains and displays the art that preserves the folk and local culture. Museums are very common in urban areas due to the mass amount of people present to view them, so museums spread through hierarchical diffusion. Interview. We interviewed an employee at Up Dog Smoothie Bar. She was a student attending KSU and belonged to the sorority Zeta Pi Beta.
Where are you from? Like, are you from around here?
Yeah, so I was actually born at Keystone Hospital right down the road.
Okay.
Yeah, conveniently.
So, how does the Marietta Square influence our cultural landscape?
Well, it's been here for a very long time, and they could have just bulldozed it over, but instead, Marietta as a community, as a historical community, has decided to keep it here and sort of stay true to its historical roots with the architecture of the buildings. And so I think that's really, it's been a good spot so you can kind of capture old Marietta, but also they have this modern swing to it where you've got Us, which is like a vegan and organic smoothie bar inside a yoga studio, but then you can also go get a burger or get tacos or bubble tea or whatever at Square. So it sort of also appeals to the modern individual.
Okay, what are your favorite and least favorite buildings in Square? Just around.
Buildings or
Yeah.
like
Just
in
like-
terms of look?
Yeah, in architecture style, you know, that kind of.
My favorite building is actually the Brumby Lofts. They're super cool industrial apartments, and they really stayed true to that, what it was, which was a chair factory. And they actually kept some of the electrical systems. They have a revamped, like, what would you call it, like a stock elevator, which is really cool. It's just a ginormous elevator, but it can have people in it. And they keep these really cool windows that are the original windows for the entire building, but it's just a really, really pretty place, but keeps that historical feel to it. And my least favorite, that's really hard.
Yeah, don't.
I'm trying to think in the area. I hate the courthouse building. Like, it's just so dry. I think the clock is really cool, but I don't know. I think it's just dry and sort of feels out of place, maybe.
Yeah.
Okay, what changes have you recently noticed?
In the square? Well, over by Taqueria Tsunami and Eddie's Trick Shop, they completely bulldozed the sidewalk, so they are redoing that, and that's because the trees and the piping is sort of old, and the trees were overgrown, so they're redoing that. They did the adjacent corner over by Tiny Bubbles and all those little boutiques last year. So.
Why do you think these changes have occurred?
I think primarily it's upkeep. Those trees are a couple hundred years old, and I think as sad as it is to see old trees that have been there for hundreds of years go, I think when you're in a public area where there's cars coming by, people walking, and the roots are growing up into the sidewalk, and people are having a hard time walking, and you could have tree branches falling on cars, I think that poses a risk, and so I think it's just usual maintenance in a public area that has to happen.
Okay, so do you think these changes are beneficial or no?
Like I said, I think it's sad, and I think people who have been in the area for years, whether it's old families, old Marietta families, or like my family who's been here for like 20 years, I think it's sad to see the trees and the old field go, but at the same time, it's sort of cool to see the upgrade almost. It's good to see it grow.